If you're looking to discreetly store and secure items in your 2009 to 2014 SuperCab F150, then the Tuffy underseat lockbox would be an excellent choice. Now the Tuffy will provide 16 gauge steel material along with a lockable design, all for right around that $150 price point. Your install, believe it or not, will not involve any drilling or permanent modification, so therefore we will call this a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the old difficulty meter and about 30 minutes or so from start to finish. But as always guys, hang out till the end of the video and we'll show you how it's done. So if you didn't know, Tuffy specializes in one thing and one thing only, and that is security products for a wide variety of cars and trucks alike. And the underseat lockbox just so happens to fall right in the wheelhouse for what these guys do very well, just bulletproof protection. So with that in mind, what do you say we break this thing down a little bit more? Now on the surface, it's not really a terribly complicated part, right guys? 16 gauge steel lockbox gonna live underneath the driver's side portion of the rear seat, meaning it will not interfere with the factory sub if equipped. Now when that seat is fully folded down, no one is the wiser and you really can't tell anything is there, especially if you're looking through that rear window. But flip open or flip up the back seat and open up the lockbox and you're greeted with just over 2,000 cubic inches of storage space that can easily be used for whatever you have in mind. Firearms, tools, cleaning supplies, sporting equipment, the sky is the limit here. Now I briefly mentioned that 16 gauge steel material earlier on, which by the way is incredibly burly, but to help keep things even more secure, Tuffy did incorporate their pry guard locking system here, complete with a 10 tumbler double bitted lock on this thing. So basically you can't get a pry bar or anything underneath that, pry it up and out of the way. Very, very safe and secure. They've also incorporated some weather stripping on the edges here just to help keep things nice and dry once everything is locked up. This thing has also been finished off with a textured black powder coat, which is going to help add to the stealth factor once everything has been installed. But perhaps one of the best things I enjoy about the Tuffy here is the way it installs. A, no drilling needed whatsoever, which is great, but B, once this thing is installed, it's virtually impossible to remove without seriously tearing up the truck. Why? Well, it installs using the bracket for your factory jack in your F150, but the hardware actually mounts or secures going through the box itself, meaning once the actual lid is closed, everything is locked up. You can't get to that hardware, which is a nice design on Tuffy's behalf, and again, would be very difficult to defeat. But now let's actually show you guys how it is installed, and in order to do so, here is a detailed walkthrough of the job itself.
All right guys, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is lift up your 60/40 split rear seats. Now that you have your seats flipped up, you're gonna go ahead and install your bracket. Now this bracket does have a certain way it goes in. You're gonna want the slant down and the tab facing forward. Now you're gonna wanna tighten this up, but don't tighten it down all the way because you may need to make minor adjustments further down the road. You'll be using a 7/16 wrench and a 7/16 socket. Now that we have our bracket installed, we're gonna go ahead and remove your factory jack as well as the factory lug wrench. Once you have your jack and lug wrench removed, you're gonna go ahead and remove the 3 10mm bolts holding down your jack mounting plate. Once you have your 3 bolts removed, you're gonna leave your jack mounting plate where it is. Now that we have our bracket installed and our bolts out, we're gonna go grab our lockbox. Now you're going to want to open it up and line the tabs up with the holes from the bolts you just removed. Now using a 13mm socket, you're going to go ahead and install the provided hardware. You're going to want to put all 3 bolts in before you tighten anything up. As you can see, the tab does bend down to conform with the bracket. Now that we have our lockbox mounted to our jack plate, we're gonna go ahead and go back to the bracket we installed earlier. You're gonna use the provided 7/16 hardware and tighten it down. Now that we have our lockbox fully mounted, we're gonna go back and fully tighten up the bracket that we installed earlier. Now that we have our box fully secured, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall our factory jack as well as the lug wrench. Now that we have our jack installed, the last thing you're going to want to do is close your box and lock it up. Tuffy provides you with 2 keys and the operation is smooth. For optimal operation, you're going to want to go ahead and lube this lock at least once a month. The last thing you're going to want to do is put your seats back down and put your keys in a safe location. And with everything tightened up and locked up, that wraps up our review and install. You can check out more at AmericanTrucks.com.